Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous. From presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I am proud to introduce you to Dorothea de Zafra-Atwell, whose lifelong commitment to public service was born out of a desire to make a positive difference in the world. So, Dorothea, I was so looking forward to this conversation because I'm curious, what motivated you to become involved with public administration and the federal civil service?
Well, it's sort of a long story that I'll try to make short. My dad was a social studies teacher, and in the 1950s, his school district got a letter from a teacher in Japan wanting to know what democracy was so he could teach it to his students. Now, this was right after World War II when Japan had been an enemy country. And my dad wrote a long letter about what democracy is, which led to, excuse me, which led to our meeting this family and my having a wonderful communication with the Japanese people. I went on to major in non-Western civilizations at the University of Rochester, and then decided I wanted to make a career in the Foreign Service. So I went to graduate school in public administration, learned that women at the time were not given professional positions in the public service. I'm sorry, in the Foreign Service. So I took the federal entrance exam to be a management intern and got a letter that the internship class was full. Subsequently, I heard that there was a vacancy which I could fill. So I took the vacancy, which was in the public health service. So it was more by accident than by design that I got into the federal government. But I stayed in the public health service, hoping to get into international public health, which did not happen. But I've subsequently had a more than 30-year career in the public health service in various management and analytical capacities.
Actually, I was just interested. What have been some of the interesting projects that you've taken on throughout your career since you've had such a varied career?
Well, I'd have to say the first one was as part of my internship when I was 28 or so years old. I was assigned to work in the Indian Health Service to fill in for someone who was on maternity leave. And it gave me a wonderful introduction to the Indian people, the Native Americans, their culture. I got a field trip to Arizona and New Mexico at that time and was absolutely shocked at the poverty that I saw there, which was even worse than what I had seen in West Africa when I went to Ghana for a summer as a student in a work camp project there. So being able to have some small role in improving health delivery on Native American reservations for the temporary period really motivated me to pursue subsequent accomplishments in the public health service. I think probably my longest lasting accomplishment was to chair an interagency committee that developed the first government-wide standards in information system security, training standards, I should say.
Okay.
Because the agencies of the federal government are so diverse that it was difficult, and of course, computer systems so diverse, that it was difficult to establish training standards that could be measured or measurable across agencies and functions. And we developed a guide that was in use for over 10 years. And considering how fast computers and information systems change over a 10-year period, I think that's quite an accomplishment. And I think probably just to make one more comment or one more area, my final position was in the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, where I was the first science education program manager, developed a science education program, which was to get research findings on alcohol into curricula quickly. So there wouldn't be a lag time between new information and having it in training programs. I worked on fetal alcohol syndrome, now known as fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, but developing education materials on that subject, which could be used, believe it or not, for middle school students, and then adapting it all the way up to alcohol abuse counselors and professionals in training.
I see. I see. I'm giving away a little bit, but I have a birthday coming up next month, and so when I read that you've led discussion groups on what you call creative aging, it made me extremely curious. Tell me what is meant by that term.
Okay. Creative aging. This was something that I did with my church, but it was open to the public in general. And it was self-selected. Anybody who decided they were in the second half of life was eligible to join. What motivated me primarily to do this was the negative social stereotype of seniors in society. And I thought it would be important to concentrate on individual self-esteem, improving self-esteem, to counteract the social stigma associated with aging. And we did a lot of readings of different cultures and sages and elders, positive views of aging and wisdom. We did a lot of self-care and health information, practical information such as wills and powers of attorney, and the importance of taking charge of your aging is probably the best way to talk about it.
And interestingly enough, Dorothea, this work may be official, but I also see it as work in the community. In addition to the official work, are there things that you enjoy doing that are community oriented?
Oh, I've done a lot and I really enjoy it. One of my hobbies is archaeology, if you can believe it. I have been to Honduras and was a volunteer on a project in Copan, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site of the ancient Maya. But as part of that personal interest, I came back very enthused about the ancient Maya and was a resource person for the Alexandria, Virginia city schools, which had a summer camp program for talented and gifted kids. And their fourth and fifth graders were studying archaeology. So I set up an archaeological project for them, and we had a great deal of fun doing that one summer. In addition, I've been an ombudsman, long-term care ombudsman, because I spent several years as a caregiver for my mother, who was suffering from dementia. And what I learned by the seat of my pants, so to speak, in dementia care, I wanted to apply more broadly and help other people, which I did working as a volunteer in an assisted living facility. Right now, I am back in the city where I grew up, Rochester, New York. And I'm in a way filling my mother's shoes because she was an avid local historian. And I'm working with a local history group to promote and preserve our neighborhood.
How wonderful is that? But as I listen to you describe the things that interest you and the stuff that you've worked on,
Mhm,
a lot of it is really health related. So I'm curious,
mhm.
what would you say are some of the most important things women can do to maintain overall good health?
Most importantly, we do so much for others that I think we skimp on ourselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if we would not feel guilty about taking time for ourselves,
Oh, you mean putting yourself on the front burner? That would be a
that's
good
right.
thing.
That's right. Taking care of ourselves, delegating as much as we can to other family members, I think, and de-stressing and learning how to de-stress is one of the most important things we can do for ourselves. Of course, improving nutrition for ourselves and our families is always something that we should learn how to do.
So I can imagine with the kind of work that you've done, your colleagues have recognized you for that work. Dorothea, let's talk a little bit about those accolades. What has meant the most to you and why?
Good question. I've always been interested in diversity issues. As I mentioned, starting with learning about Japan when I was young. But to me, diversity has meant more than just statistics, improving the profiles of an organization. Diversity to me has meant getting to know other people and other points of view, other backgrounds, um, treating people equally by treating them differently according to their own strengths and backgrounds. And I think that getting an Equal Employment Opportunity Diversity Award
Yes.
was one of the most important personally to me. I also appreciate the awards I've gotten from Marquee Who's Who,
Yes, ma'am.
which is their distinguished professional for my many years of being a pioneer woman in a man's field in many different ways, overcoming a lot of difficulties of being a woman in a man's field.
You know, I've so enjoyed hearing what a life and career in public service can bring you. It's clearly your passion, but it's something that really benefits all of us. I was going to say so many of us, but it really and truly is all of us. Dorothea, what's the one thing you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with today?
I would like them to appreciate the professionals in government who continue beyond, begin and continue beyond any particular administration. We are non-political. By law, we're non-political and in our work, but we are dedicated to serving the American public. And we are educated and trained in so many different areas and with so many what I call transferable skills, such as program analysis, which is my field primarily. Appreciate your government, your friendly neighborhood bureaucrat.
Yes, because the friendly neighborhood bureaucrat is what makes the world go round. There is no question about that. I thank you so very much. And we often say it to those who serve in our military, but I don't think we say it to those who serve in the civilian part of our government. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.